Hey, this is Jeffrey Pepper Rogers here for Acoustic Guitar with a lesson on the guitar style of Joan Baez. Now, Joan Baez is well known as a singer, as an interpreter, and an activist, but she's also been very influential as a guitarist. She has a very elegant, complete, self-contained kind of fingerstyle technique that she uses to accompany her songs. She also helped to popularize parlor guitars like the Martin single O and double O models that she's played for much of her career. So in this lesson, we're going to take a look at the guitar side of Joan Baez through some examples that are inspired by songs in her repertoire. So let's get started. On her first couple of albums, Joan Baez's repertoire was pretty much all ballads and traditional songs. And this first example comes from one of those ballads, a child ballad called Mary Hamilton, which was on her first album, her self-titled debut in 1960. So playing here out of C shapes, although on the recording, the guitar is tuned down a half step, so if you want to play along with that track, tune down accordingly. And this is a little arpeggio sort of pattern I'm going to use here, which is really more similar to classical guitar than it is like folk or blues finger picking. And finger assignments on the strings can be flexible, but in general, you want to be playing the low 3 strings with your thumb, 3rd string with your index, 2nd string with the middle finger, and the 1st string with your ring finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The next example is based on Baez's version of The House of the Rising Sun, which is also on her first album. Played here in the key of E minor, although on her recording, the guitar is actually tuned down a whole step. So you'd need to do that if you want to match the key. So you'll notice that the progression here is a little different than what the Animals used in their famous version of this song. And there's some partial chords in here, which on the treble strings you can play by picking strings simultaneously with your fingers. On the bass end, when you have a 2 or 3 string partial chord, you could just use a little strum with your thumb for those. 1, 2, 3. The next example comes from the song "Oh Freedom," which Baez actually sang at the March on Washington in 1963. She did this song both a cappella and with guitar, and in this case playing in the key of E major and using arpeggios that are a little bit like what we did in Mary Hamilton, except playing a bass note and then playing a pattern that goes up toward the 1st string and then back down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's an example based on the traditional Irish song called The Lily of the West. And Baez recorded this one on her second album, Volume 2, in 1961. The style here is more like flat picking accompaniment, or like Carter style picking, where you pick a bass note and then kind of do a little brush strum with your fingers. So for this one, I'm capoed up at the 6th fret and using E minor shapes, so the guitar is actually sounding in the key of B flat minor. And I'm playing with my bare fingers here, but if you use finger picks, the type of picks that you use really matters, because strumming up and down with the fingers, and if you use the type of finger picks that go over the pad of your fingers and curve that way, you can't really pick up with them because they get caught on the strings. So Baez herself uses Alaska picks, which are sort of like an extension or replacement for your nail, and they go in the same direction as your nail. So those allow you to strum up or down on the strings, kind of like with banjo frailing. But you can certainly do it with bare fingers, and that's how I'm doing it here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Another way Joan Baez has been influential has been in introducing the work of contemporary songwriters, and most famously the music of Bob Dylan. In the early 60s, when she was a huge star, she brought him out on tour and introduced him to her audiences. And she's recorded a ton of Dylan songs, and the next example comes from one of those, Forever Young, which she released as a single shortly after Dylan did. So for this one, playing with G shapes with a capo at the 2nd fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bob Dylan also inspired some of Baez's own songwriting, including one of her best-known songs, Diamonds and Rust. That's the basis of this next example. And you can really hear the Spanish flavor of Baez's guitar style coming through in this one, playing in the key of E minor. And she uses a lot of these little fingerstyle rolls where you pick a bass note and then in quick succession pick those 3 strings with 3 fingers. 3rd with the index, 2nd with the middle, 1st with the ring finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. This last example is inspired by the title track of Baez's last album called Whistle Down the Wind, which was nominated for a Grammy this year. And Baez has said this may be her last album. So this song was written by Tom Waits and Kathleen Brennan. And the example I'm playing here is with the capo at the 2nd fret using key of A shapes. One thing you'll notice in here are some chord rolls that sound like this. Basically, I'm just using my thumb and my fingers in succession on different strings to play a quick roll across the chord. It's like a sped up arpeggio, so it all really sounds as one chord. 1, 2, 3. So I've been playing these examples with just the guitar parts by themselves, but it's important to keep in mind that Baez's guitar style is all about supporting the vocal and letting the melody and the story come through. So keep that in mind as you play. Try to play in a way that supports and enhances the vocal and doesn't draw attention away from it. Hope you've enjoyed these examples. Once again, I'm Jeffrey Pepper Rogers for Acoustic Guitar. Thanks for watching.